taking pictures of other people's vehicles and license plates, which is against the law.
Taking photography.
Okay. Not here. Not right now, okay?
Okay, what are you going to do if I don't stop? What is your purpose of you being here right now?
Okay, so
You
what
have an
is
accident scene, go deal with it.
Okay, this accident is said and done. These records are now
Then
making
walk away, you're dismissed. I don't need you here.
Okay.
Leave.
I'm
Go.
not leaving anywhere.
You need to go.
A federal lawsuit filed by Rolando Reyes against Lake Jackson and several of its current and former police officers have been settled. Here is a recap of the incident and full testimony of now former Officer Cagle.
What did you say now?
I asked you, why are you here?
I said I'm taking photos.
Okay. Are you allowed on this accident scene? That's what I'm asking you.
You're asking me if I'm allowed to be here?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What do you think?
Okay. I need you to leave, please. Until
I'm not
we
going to
get
leave.
Mendoza, your accident scene. He's taking pictures of other people's vehicles and license plates, which is against the law.
What are you doing right now?
Taking photography.
Okay. Not here. Not right now, okay?
Okay. What are you going to do if I don't stop?
Okay. Look, all I'm asking, you can do what you need to do. Just go over there.
You're not going to stop me from taking photography.
Okay.
You work for the newspaper?
I don't have to work for the newspaper to take public photography.
Okay. But taking license plate pictures of license plates, you are not allowed to do.
You are also by law allowed to lie to me. That's incorrect information.
I think you need to relearn the law on that.
You actually can,
okay.
and I can take all the videos of license plates that I want.
Okay. You go ahead and do that.
I will.
Do you have your ID on you?
Do you have
Now
your ID on you?
Now you're on our accident scene, so
Okay.
I want you to identify yourself.
I want you to identify yourself right now.
Officer Cagle.
Badge number?
635.
And you?
Officer Mendoza, 5'6".
Now watch how I'm not going to give you my license.
Okay. Then I need you to remove yourself from this
I'm not going to
accident
remove myself from this accident scene.
scene. 455. I need a supervisor out here to this scene now.
You wanted to come here and intimidate
No,
me?
sir, you
Let me
came
tell you
on
something
our
right now.
No, sir, let me explain
This is not
to
your
you.
accident scene. This is all public property, okay?
You're coming up here taking photos of pictures?
Yeah. First of all, lower your voice now.
Sir, I'm talking the same way
No. You came here with a bad energy.
No, I asked what you were doing
You're
here.
going to lower your voice now when you
and
talk
you
to me.
sat here and said, I can be wherever I want.
Anywhere I want,
Okay.
yes.
All I asked you is why you're here taking photographs of other people's
None
property.
of your goddamn business.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So are you going to identify yourself since you're part of this accident?
Absolutely not.
Okay. And why is that?
Because you are not my dad. Who do you think you are?
And you do not belong in this accident
I
scene.
can be anywhere I want.
You need to leave.
I'm not leaving.
Mendoza?
Sir,
I'm not leaving.
just
I'm not leaving.
okay, all we're asking.
You're not going to tell me you're not going to intimidate me out of here.
I don't understand what the purpose is.
What is your purpose of you being here right now?
Okay, so
You
what
have an
is
accident scene, go deal with it.
Okay, this accident is said and done. These records are now
Then
making
walk away. You're dismissed. I don't need you here.
Okay, so this accident is over. Why are you
Then
still
get the
here?
out of here. I don't need you here. You're trying to intimidate me? 2 officers with guns?
No one's touching anything on that.
Then back away, because if I had come to you this close, you'd have arrested my ass.
You're
Now,
already
need to-
on our scene, which is
I
interfering in
can
my
be here.
investigation.
I'm not interfering with
Sir?
any of your shit.
You need to put your finger out of my face.
You need to back up
Okay?
for me then.
I don't need to back up. This is my scene. This is his scene.
No, you and your scene, man. I'm
Okay,
standing
you need
right
to
here.
leave now.
I'm not leaving anywhere.
Leave.
I'm
Go.
not leaving anywhere.
You need to
I'm
go.
not leaving anywhere. I'm not.
What year did you reactivate your peace officer license?
The end of 2012.
Okay, what did you have to do in order to reactivate it?
There were certain courses that TCOL's mandated that I go take, and then I had to re-challenge the TCOL test.
You had to, you called
I had to go, sorry.
You called it re-challenge the TCOL test?
Yes, sir.
Okay, what is that?
Any police officer has to take the TCOL exam. After they get out of the academy, it's about a 300 question exam that they have to take. It's over different penal code, CCP, traffic, and then you have to take that test as well. So that's where, after I finished the mandated courses that they required me to take, I was eligible to retake TCOL.
Okay. And we've been saying TCOL a couple of times. Do you know what TCOL stands for?
Texas Commission on Law Enforcement Education.
Okay, and that's, you understand, to be the state agency for Texas law enforcement officers?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so when you took these courses to reactivate your license in 2012, did you go to school to do that?
No, sir.
Okay, how did you accomplish those courses?
Most of them were through other agencies that put on a training for it. Some were also online.
Okay. And so basically you went and sought out these courses yourself to complete?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so 2012 you reactivated your peace officer license. Where did you go work?
To Missouri County Sheriff's Office.
Okay. And what did you do at the sheriff's office?
I started out in the jail. I was there 4 months, and then I went to patrol.
Okay. So you started out as a jailer?
Yes, sir.
And then you moved over to patrol?
Yes, sir.
How long were you on patrol for?
3 or 4 years.
Okay. And then what did you do after that 3 or 4 year period?
I transferred over to the mental health division for 6 years.
Okay, it's still at Brazoria County?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What is required to transfer from patrol to the mental health unit?
There's different courses you can, but you don't have to take. They do an oral board, and then the sergeant of the mental health division picks who he chooses he wants to in that division.
Okay, did you take any courses specific for the mental health division?
Yes, sir.
And what courses were those?
There's different mental health courses. I don't remember the exact names to them.
Okay. And then you said you were at the mental health division for how long?
About 6 years.
Okay. And after that 6 year period, what did you do next?
That's when I resigned from Missouri County, and I went to Lake Jackson Police Department.
Okay, what was the purpose of resigning from Brazoria County?
I wanted to further my law enforcement. So it was a time to where Brazoria County was having issues. So I decided to transfer out to a smaller department.
Okay. And were you, did you leave Brazoria County because of any discipline you've received?
No, sir.
Okay, during your, over 10 years, is it over 10 years?
It's right at 10 years.
Okay. So your 10-year period with Brazoria County, were there ever any complaints made against you?
To my knowledge, no.
Okay. And did you receive any written admonishments during your time at Brazoria County?
For complaints or
For any type?
there was one report that was messed up that I was, it's a verbal warning. There's 3 different levels that they have. It's verbal, then a write-up, then discipline.
Okay, so you didn't receive any write-ups while you were at Brazoria County?
No, sir.
Okay. And then do you have a gap of time between the Brazoria County Sheriff's Office and when you went to Lake Jackson?
2 days.
2 days?
Yes, sir.
So you knew you wanted to go to Lake Jackson?
Yes, sir. I actually gave Missouri County a 3-week notice before I left.
Okay. And then how long were you at Lake Jackson Police Department?
7 months.
7 months. What was your position?
Patrol.
Okay, it was patrol the entire time?
Yes, sir.
Right, during your 7 month stint with Lake Jackson, what kind of training did you receive?
There was a use of force training, defensive tactics training. I actually taught a mental health class. It's the 40-hour course that TCOL mandates that officers have. And then I've done a few online, quite a few online actually.
Okay. The use of force training you received, tell me about that. Who gave that training?
There was 2 different instructors. One was from Freeport, I don't remember his name, and I think he was the only one that did the use of force.
Was that something that the city of Lake Jackson required or something TCOL required?
Neither. It was a course that I asked to take.
Okay, so the course was on use of force generally, not, for example, city policy.
I don't know on that.
Okay.
I don't know on their policy. I saw the course come up and I asked if I could take it.
Okay. And the use of force, how long was that course?
I think it was just 1 day.
Okay. And did you go to Freeport for that course, or did the instructor come from Freeport to the city of Lake Jackson?
City of Lake Jackson. Freeport to Lake Jackson.
Okay. And so did other City of Lake Jackson police officers also attend that course?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And where was that course held exactly?
In the training room at the police station.
Okay. The police station of City of Lake Jackson?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And do you recall if Officer Mendoza was present at that training?
I know he was in one of my training classes. I just don't remember which one it is.
Okay. Now, when you came to the City of Lake Jackson Police Department, were you provided with any information as to what the city's or the police department's policies were?
I know they gave me a handout of a bunch of paperwork, but I don't remember. I was more into getting through the training program. I don't remember if I've looked at everything or not.
Okay, when you said you were looking to get through the training program, what do you mean?
The FTO program.
Okay, is the FT, what do you mean by FTO?
Any field training officer, whenever you go to another department, they still have to put you through their training to make sure you're within, that you understand their policy, or not policies, but their report writing, their computers, all that.
Okay. Were you an FTO with Brazoria County?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so in order to be an FTO, is that something that's recognized? If somebody looks at your peace officer credentials, can somebody tell that you're an FTO, or is that something that's department specific?
No, sir. It's through TCO. It's a TCO course that they log it on your record.
Okay, so you have to go take specific TCO courses to be qualified as a FTO?
That's different departments have different ways of doing that.
Okay.
Some departments, they teach it themselves. Sometimes you can get it online.
Okay. But at the end of the day, the course is still credentialed by TCO?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you accomplished at Brazoria County the courses necessary to be qualified as an FTO?
Yes, sir.
Okay, do you recall what year that was?
No, sir, I don't. It was when I was on patrol, so it would be, I don't remember. It was before I went to mental health, I know that.
Okay. And are you required to take any additional courses going forward, like annual requirements, once you become an FTO?
No, sir.
Okay. So then when you leave Brazoria County, you go to the City of Lake Jackson, your intent was to be in a FTO position?
No, sir.
Okay. So what training did you have to do then? Well, let me back up. Why did you have to go through a training program for the City of Lake Jackson?
That's any police department. If you transfer to another police department, they're going to put you through their FTO program.
Okay, so regardless if you are an FTO officer or not?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So were you in an FTO position with the City of Lake Jackson?
No, sir.
Okay. But you still went through the training course?
Yes, sir.
Who put on the training course?
They put you with different officers that you ride with that are FTO certified.
Okay, and how long is that training program?
It can go from 60 to 90 days.
Okay, how long were you involved in the City of Lake Jackson FTO training program?
I believe it was 9 to 11 weeks.
9 to 11 weeks?
Yes, sir.
Okay, do you recall which officers, I guess what FTO officers you were working with the City of Lake Jackson during that 9 to 11 week period?
I had Officer Ryan, Corporal Dunn, and there was one more. He was in the traffic unit. I can't remember his name.
Okay. And during this 9 to 11 week training program, would you go over, or were there any discussions or any type of training on the written policies that the City of Lake Jackson expected you to understand?
We went over, I know, the use of force continuum. We went over how they expected their reports to be written. how evidence was collected and logged in, and how your PCs were written on their side.
And when you say PCs, what do you mean?
Probable cause affidavits.
Okay. And so were these just, so this is basically where you were paired up with an FTO?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this wasn't like a classroom environment type instruction?
No, sir.
Okay. At any time, did you have to sign any documents indicating that you understood or that you read and understood what the City of Lake Jackson Police Department policies were?
No, sir.
During your 7-month period, were you ever required to attend any specific City of Lake Jackson Police Department training?
What do you mean by that?
So, for example, you mentioned that TCOL requires you to do annual training, right?
Yes, sir.
Did the City of Lake Jackson Police Department require any specific training?
In the time that I was there, there was never a requirement for any training.
Okay. And so, so when you were, so you came over to the City of Lake Jackson to do patrol, correct?
Yes, sir.
At that time, what was the, do you recall the first, I guess the first time you went out by yourself on patrol while employed with the City of Lake Jackson?
It was close to Halloween,
Halloween of what year?
2021.
2021. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So prior to October 2021, when was the last time you had gone out on patrol by yourself?
That'd be before I went to mental health in Brazoria County.
Okay, so 6 or 7 years prior
Yes, sir. On patrol.
on patrol. When you were with the mental health unit, were you responsible for like accident scenes?
No, sir.
Okay. Were you responsible for securing crime scenes?
No, sir.
Okay. What was your what were your duties and responsibilities generally with the mental health division with Brazoria County?
We did anywhere from interviewing people to see if they met the criteria by the state, and if they did, then they were escorted by us to a hospital so they can get treatment. We also dealt with children and adult that were suicidal. They could have been homicidal as well. We dealt strictly with mental health is all we dealt with.
Okay. Did that require you to put handcuffs on individuals?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Were you required to evaluate probable cause?
Sir, we did not evaluate. We only interviewed.
Okay. So, but when you were on patrol with the City of Lake Jackson, for example, were you required to evaluate probable cause?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But you did not have that same role with the mental health division with Brazoria County?
As with traffic or crime scenes, no.
Okay. Do you know why we are here today?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that's from the incident on March 4th, 2022?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let's see here. So it looks like you were out at around 1:30 p.m. at 104 Highway 332. Is that correct?
I know I was out at 332 or Highway 332. I don't know the numbers to it
Okay, and what was your reason for being out there?
because of the minor accident.
Okay, so were you, like, how'd that work? Did dispatch say, hey, we got a report, or were you specifically tasked? How did you end up out there?
I was actually advised by Corporal Ryan to go out there to help Officer Mendoza because it was at the exit off of 288 on the feeder road and also the exit at the mall. It's a high traffic area right there. So that's why I went to the scene.
Okay, And did you go out there? What kind of vehicle did you take out there?
There was a Chevy Tahoe. I don't know the year.
Okay, but it was a marked police vehicle.
Yes, sir.
Okay, where did you park the vehicle?
I originally parked it at the exit from the mall onto the feeder road, but then within maybe a few minutes I moved it further back because cars were still trying to come around the unit. So we were trying to block that exit off out of the mall so they couldn't come out.
Okay, so were you successful in blocking the traffic over there?
From coming out, yes, sir.
Okay. So you get out on the scene. Is Officer Mendoza the only one out there?
Yes, sir.
From the city of Lake Jackson?
Police department, yes, sir.
Okay. And did you talk to him about what you needed help with, or?
No, sir. Officer Mendoza was already talking to the people in the accident.
Okay, and so you understood when you got out there that you would help with traffic control.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you have any discussions at that point with Officer Mendoza?
We inter-talked with each other throughout the whole scene, but it wasn't in relation to the accident completely.
Okay, when you got out to the scene, were the wreckers or the tow trucks already present?
No, sir.
Okay. And so at some point, you're alerted to the presence of Mr. Reyes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. How did you become of Mr. Reyes?
The female that was in the accident looked at me and asked me who that was. So that's when I confronted Mr. Reyes.
Okay. And when you observed Mr. Reyes, what was he doing?
He was leaning or standing at the curb next to the stop sign.
Okay. And was he in the roadway or out of the roadway?
He was on the curb, which is right there at the exit of the mall.
Okay. So he was standing on a curb.
Yes, sir.
Was he in the road?
No, sir.
Okay. And was the traffic or the road was the road blocked to vehicular traffic at that time?
At that time, yes, sir.
Okay. So was there any concern for safety reasons where Mr. Reyes was standing?
Yes, sir.
What was the concern?
The exit coming off the freeway was just to the north of where he was standing.
Okay. The exit was north of the freeway where he was standing?
Yes, sir. The exit from, I call it Highway 288. It's also Highway 332. The exit off of that freeway is just north of where the accident occurred.
Okay, so the area he was standing on the curb, you say he was standing near a stop sign, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, is it your understanding that vehicles could have approached that stop sign?
If they would have rear-ended one of the fire apparatuses, or fire trucks, not a regular truck, but a regular pickup, it could have ran into him, me, or anybody else there.
Okay, but that's because there was a fire truck that was blocking that intersection.
They weren't blocking the intersection; they were just blocking that one lane.
Okay, the one lane near the stop sign.
Yes,
where
sir.
Mr. Reyes was standing.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So when you approached Mr. Reyes, before you approached Mr. Reyes, when you saw him standing on the curb, how far away was he from the accident scene?
Maybe 5 feet.
5 feet?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And 5 feet from the stop sign to what marker?
On the roadway. Where that stop sign is where the male subject was exiting out. That's where the accident occurred, was at that stop sign.
Okay, but how do you know that?
The vehicles were still there, intertwined with each other.
Okay, so you understood that Mr. Reyes was standing 5 feet from the vehicles?
From where the accident occurred, yes, sir.
Okay, and so the lady that alerted you to Mr. Reyes' presence, was she closer or further away to the accident scene?
She was further away from the accident scene.
Than Mr. Reyes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Were there other individuals out there as well?
The other gentleman that was in the accident, there was myself, Officer Mendoza, and the other two assistant chiefs that were there.
Okay. And so the male individual that was involved in the accident, was he standing closer or further away to the accident?
He was further away as well.
Okay. So your testimony is that Mr. Reyes was the closest out of the other two to the accident?
Where the accident occurred, yes, sir.
Okay. And at the time you observed Mr. Reyes, what was your responsibility on that scene?
Was the safety and security of that scene.
Okay, safety and security. What does that entail?
Make sure that the scene is safe, that no one else gets injured there, and make sure nothing else gets damaged.
Okay. And so Mr. Reyes was standing on a curb with I guess a grass easement area? Right?
Yes, sir.
And that's also that same grass easement, isn't that where the other two individuals were also standing?
They were further south.
Okay, but they were still in that grass area?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And when you first observed Mr. Reyes, what did it appear that he was doing?
Standing there.
Doing what?
Just standing there.
Okay, just standing there. Did you observe him with his phone out?
I think he had his phone in his hand, but I didn't pay attention to where his phone was.
Okay, so your testimony right now is that your concern was with him standing where he was at?
With his safety, yes, sir.
Okay, did you ever relay that to him?
I walked up to him and asked him if I could help him.
Okay, and do you recall telling him what your concern was?
I don't remember, sir.
Okay. So, what is your understanding? Well, let me ask you this: is it your understanding that it's against the law to take photos of license plates from public spaces?
That was a mistake that I made.
Okay. So on March 4th, 2022, you thought that it was against the law to take photos of license plates?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And didn't you observe Mr. Reyes appear to take photos of the accident scene?
Can you say that again, please?
Didn't you observe Mr. Reyes taking photos of the accident scene?
I did not observe him taking photos, no.
Okay. So why would you have told him then that he was not permitted to take pictures of license plates?
Sir, I don't remember exactly how the conversation was.
Okay. But do you recall saying something to him about taking pictures of license plates?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Why would you have told him that?
Sir, I don't recall exactly how that conversation came up.
Okay. Have you seen videos from this incident?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did that include observing your body-worn camera?
Yes, sir.
Did you also see Mr. Mendoza's
Yes, sir.
body-worn camera?
Yes, sir.
Did you observe the video taken from the female bystander?
Yes, sir.
And you also saw the video taken from Mr. Reyes?
Besides what's on the internet? No.
Okay, but you saw the video that was posted on the internet?
Some of it, yes, sir.
Okay, some of it. And you watched those videos a couple of times, right?
Just my body camera and Officer Mendoza's body camera.
Okay, did you review those body cameras or any body camera in preparation of an incident report?
Yes, sir.
Okay, did you review those cameras in preparation of the Lake Jackson Police Department's investigation into the incident?
I don't know what their investigation was. I went in there to do my statement is the reason that I watched the videos.
Okay, to make, when you say your statement, do you mean the statement to the city of Lake Jackson or your incident report?
It would have been my statement or my incident report.
Okay. And were you interviewed at all by any Texas Ranger?
Yes, sir.
Okay, did you review your body-worn camera prior to that interview?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And prior to today, or in preparation of today, did you view any video?
Miss Vaughn's, myself, and Officer Mendoza.
Okay, so when you say Miss Vaughn's, that's the female body?
That's the female. Yes, sir.
Now, okay, so you've watched the videos since March 2022 a number of times, right?
Not a number of times. I've seen Miss Vaughn's once, mine 3 times, and Mendoza's 3 times.
Okay, so there was, you had to watch the video, or at least the body-worn cameras, to prepare an incident report.
Yes, sir.
You watched the videos to prepare your statements to the City of Lake Jackson Police Department.
That's the same time.
Okay, so you watched it just once?
Yes, sir.
Those two. Okay,
I saw the video camera once.
and then you watched the body-worn camera in preparation for your interview with the Texas Rangers?
No, sir.
No, you didn't watch the
No,
video?
sir.
Okay. But then you watched it. Did you watch any of the video once you received notice of this lawsuit?
With my attorney.
Okay. And did you watch the video in preparation of responding to discovery? Recent discovery? We didn't have sent you discovery yet. Oh, we did. Did you watch the video in preparation?
The one time with my attorney.
Just one time?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But then you watched it in preparation for today?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, out of the times of watching your body-worn camera from this incident, you can't recall why you told Mr. Reyes it was illegal to photograph license plates?
No, sir. I mean, I would have to watch it again.
Okay. What was your understanding of an individual's right to film police officers performing their duties in public?
And to clarify the question, you're asking him what was at that time?
At that time, correct. 2022. At that time, on March 4th, 2022, what did you understand was Mr. Reyes' right to film police officers performing their duties in public?
I had no training on that, to my knowledge, so I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, did you receive any kind of briefing at all from any police officer or employee with the City of Lake Jackson?
Since that incident?
No, prior to that incident?
No, sir.
Okay, how about since that incident?
No, sir.
Okay. So, did you understand at the time on March 4th, 2022, that Mr. Reyes was filming his interaction with you?
Yes, sir. He had his phone in his hand.
Okay. And you understood he was filming?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did you understand at that time that he had a right to film that interaction?
I wasn't concerned about him filming.
Okay, you weren't concerned at all with him filming?
Not whenever I was talking to Mr. Reyes, no, sir.
Okay. So, why did you approach Mr. Reyes then and tell him he was breaking the law by photographing license plates?
I confronted Mr. Reyes because Miss Vaughn asked me who he was.
Okay. Was Mr. Reyes standing in a public space?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did Miss Vaughn have some kind of right or control to have Mr. Reyes removed from that area?
She didn't ask him to be removed.
Okay. So, Miss Vaughn told you she was concerned, or she didn't know who Mr. Reyes was?
She asked who he was.
Okay. And at that point, you determined, why did you approach Mr. Reyes?
I just walked up to him to ask him if he needed any help, if there was something I could do for him.
Okay. And what did he tell you?
He actually said, "Hold on a minute."
Okay. And was Mr. Reyes at that point, to your understanding, is he suspected of committing any crime?
No, sir.
Okay. And so is it your understanding that Mr. Reyes had to respond to any of your questions?
Yes, sir.
He did?
No, he did not.
Okay, he did not. Okay. At any point, did you tell Mr. Reyes that he needed to leave for safety reasons?
I don't recall if I said it that way.
Okay. Do you know if you told Mr. Reyes anything at all concerning safety?
I don't recall.
Okay. At some point, you asked Mr. Reyes to leave,
Yes, sir.
and he didn't leave.
Yes, sir.
And then you called over Mr. Mendoza, Officer Mendoza.
Yes, sir.
Why? What was the purpose for calling over Officer Mendoza?
It was Officer Mendoza was primary on the scene.
Okay. At that point, when you called over Officer Mendoza, were you suspecting Mr. Reyes of committing any crime?
No, sir.
Okay. On March 4th, 2022, what was your understanding of a citizen's right to verbally criticize police officers?
I have no recollection of any of that.
Okay. That wasn't part of your, you don't recall seeing any T-pole courses?
No, sir.
Okay. So, when Officer Mendoza, do you recall Officer Mendoza stating during the interaction that the accident scene was, or the accident investigation was completed?
You would have to ask Officer Mendoza that. I don't,
You don't
remember.
recall that?
No, sir.
Okay. What do you recall from the interaction with Mr. Reyes?
At which time?
Well, tell me your understanding, based on your recollection, what the conversation was between you and Mr. Reyes.
I know I asked Mr. Reyes multiple times to leave, and he refused to leave.
Okay. Help me understand, what authority did you have to have Mr. Reyes leave?
He's on the scene of an accident, which is a safety issue. So that's why we were asking him to leave.
Okay. Did you tell Mr. Reyes that he needed to leave because it was a safety issue?
Now, that's been asked and answered. I'll let him answer it again one more time.
I do not recall if I said safety or not.
Okay. And your understanding is that he was standing, I guess, closer than the other two individuals that were on the same grass area?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What was your understanding of what still needed to be done with the accident investigation?
The wreckers were starting to pick up the vehicles, but they were still in the roadway.
Okay, and we have the video of it. The wreckers were, they weren't in the lane nearest to the stop sign, were they?
I don't recall exactly where they were positioned. I know they were next to each other.
All right, so if you recall the interaction being you asked Mr. Reyes to leave, he didn't leave, what happened next?
We continued to ask him to leave, and he refused. He was cussing everything else, But
At some point, you made the decision to, did you make the decision to just subdue Mr. Reyes or to detain Mr. Reyes?
no, sir, I made the decision to try to escort him off the scene to back him up.
Okay. And you've seen Mr. or Officer Mendoza's video, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you've seen the second amended complaint that we filed in this matter?
I would have to get with the attorney on that. I don't, I've had so much paperwork, I don't know.
Okay, so are you aware that you grabbed Mr. Reyes by the neck?
No, sir.
Are you aware that you knocked his phone out of his hand?
No, sir.
Okay. When you say that you were going to escort Mr. Reyes, how did you envision doing that?
I placed my left hand on his right side and told him he needed to leave.
Okay, so that's how you envisioned doing it.
No, sir, that's how I did it.
Okay, so you put your hand on his right side. Which hand did you use?
My left hand
Okay,
on his right side.
okay. Did you see Mr. Reyes reach for anything?
His right arm came up into my left arm twice.
Okay, so did you see Mr. Reyes reach for anything?
I was looking at Mr. Reyes, I just saw the motion of his hand.
Okay. The motion of his hand, and this is after you made contact with him?
Yes, sir, after I touched him on the side.
Okay. And when you saw the motion of his hand, what ended up happening?
After that is whenever I reached up to grab him to take him to the ground, because I don't know how the phone fell, but his left hand started coming down towards my right side as I was coming down with him.
Okay. And so at the time you decided to put your left hand on Mr. Reyes' right side, did you suspect Mr. Reyes of committing a crime?
Yes, sir.
And what crime is that?
He was interfering in our investigation,
Okay. What investigation was he interfering with?
the traffic accident.
Okay. And by this point, though, did you hear Officer Mendoza say that the investigation was completed?
At that time, I don't know exactly when or how he said it.
Okay, so you were not responsible for the accident investigation, were you?
No, sir.
Okay, so the decision as to whether or not the investigation was ongoing, was that with Officer Mendoza?
As long as the scene is still there, the accident investigation is continuing.
Okay.
I don't know when Officer Mendoza stated that the accident scene was complete.
Okay. Would it surprise you if Officer Mendoza said that while standing right next to you during the interaction with Mr. Reyes?
What do you mean? I'm not understanding your question on that.
Sure. You watched the body-worn camera a couple of times, right?
Yes, sir.
Do you recall when you called Officer Mendoza over, Officer Mendoza informed Mr. Reyes while standing next to you that the accident investigation was completed?
After the second time that I asked Officer Mendoza. The first time I asked Officer Mendoza, he never said that. Maybe after the second time, it is possible.
Okay, but so you recall Officer Mendoza relaying that the accident investigation...
I remember that I remember that was said, yes.
Okay, and that occurred prior to you putting your left hand on Mr. Reyes' right side.
I don't recall when that was said, when I placed my hand on him.
Okay, so if Officer Mendoza had stated prior to you making physical contact with Mr. Reyes that the accident investigation was completed, is it your understanding that Mr. Reyes would be interfering with the accident scene?
Sir, he was interfering with the accident scene before Officer Mendoza said that it was over.
How is Mr. Reyes interfering with the accident scene?
Because we've asked him to leave multiple times and he has refused to do so.
Okay, did you ask anyone else to leave?
There was no one, yes, actually I did. There was another female before Mr. Reyes came up that was trying to walk up to her sister, and we asked her to leave. She also left.
And her sister was Miss Vaughn, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, that female, she actually entered into the roadway, didn't she?
Which roadway?
That female that you were talking about, when she went to approach her sister, she actually walked onto the roadway, didn't she?
She came from the mall. She is one of the ones that almost hit the assistant chief's truck.
Okay. And so she was traveling by foot to her sister.
Yes, sir.
And when you approached her, she was on the roadway.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So but Mr. Reyes, he never stepped on the roadway, did he?
No, sir.
Okay. And matter of fact, you didn't even, you weren't even aware of Mr. Reyes standing by a stop sign until Ms. Vaughn raised that to your attention, right?
That's correct.
So Mr. Reyes, he wasn't preventing you from doing your job, was he?
No, sir.
So, put your left hand on Mr. Reyes' right side, and you see what appears to be Mr. Reyes lift his
Be his right arm.
his right arm up. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And at that point, you make the decision to bring Mr. Reyes down to the ground.
Yes, sir.
Okay, what is the tactic called on how you brought him to the ground?
It's a defensive tactic. It's you reach up, grab a hold of their shoulder area, and you pull them down.
Okay. And did Officer Mendoza assist you with the takedown?
I know Officer Mendoza was there. I don't know when he got involved.
Okay. And then once Mr. Reyes is down on the ground, what are you doing next?
We're trying to place his hands behind his back.
Okay. And are you sitting on Mr. Reyes?
No, sir.
Okay. Are you kneeling over him?
I was leaned over him with my legs behind him.
Okay. But you didn't have any body weight on him?
No, sir.
Okay. And whose cuffs were you trying to get onto Mr. Reyes?
I don't remember if they were mine or Officer Mendoza's.
Okay. Prior to placing the handcuffs on, well, I guess handcuffs eventually end up on Mr. Reyes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. When's the last time you had to take down somebody prior to March 4th, 2020?
Sir, I don't recall.
Okay. Did you have to take anybody down other than Mr. Reyes during the 7 months you were with the city of Lake Jackson?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you have to take anybody down when you were with the mental health division with Brazoria County?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so your understanding was you tell me why did you make the decision to switch from physically removing Mr. Reyes from the area to then taking him down to the ground and putting cuffs on him?
When I saw his hand move forward, that's when Mr. Reyes took that stance of he's not moving. And at that time, I felt the safety was enough. And the fact that he came up and hit my hand and reaching for something, I didn't know what. It was a split second that I reached up, grabbed a hold of his shoulder area up here, and I pulled him to the ground.
And at that point, what crime did you think Mr. Reyes was committing?
He had already the refusing to leave after he's been told to do so.
Okay, what offense is that?
It's in the transportation. I don't remember the exact note, the code to it, but it's 542 point something. And it's whenever there's a police officer, crossing guard, or anybody else that is dealing with traffic, if we ask them to leave, if they refuse to leave, then they're interfering.
Okay, so we've already established that Mr. Reyes was not in the roadway, right?
Yes, sir.
At any time, was he impeding traffic?
No, sir.
And do you know if Mr. Reyes was ever charged with violation of the transportation code?
I have no idea.
Did anyone ask you what crime you thought Mr. Reyes was committing?
I remember, I believe it was either Corporal Dunn or Sergeant Necestra had asked.
Did you prepare an incident report in this matter?
No, sir,
Why not?
because I was told not to.
Who told you that?
Corporal or Lieutenant Cromines.
Cromines, that's spelled C-R-O-M-E-E-N-E-S?
I have no idea. I have misspelled his name I don't know how many times.
Okay, and so normally, well, let me back up. You made the decision did you make the decision to detain or arrest Mr. Reyes?
It was just detain him.
Okay, so even though you thought he was violating the transportation code, you did not intend to arrest him?
I had no time did I ever say he was under arrest.
But what did you intend to do?
To detain him, to get the situation calmed down to where we can address everything.
Okay. And so normally when you detain somebody or put somebody in handcuffs, is it your understanding? Let me scratch it. Are you required to prepare an incident report every time you put somebody in handcuffs?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Can I?
Sure.
Not every time that we put somebody in handcuffs. If we detain them, usually there's an incident report, yes. It explains because we have, technically that's part of a use of force because you're detaining them, you're restricting them from their movements. So yes, I've always done an incident report on it.
Okay, is it your understanding that the City of Lake Jackson Police Department policy would have required you to prepare an incident report?
Yes, sir.
And did you, on March 4, 2022, did you intend to prepare an incident report?
Yes, sir.
Okay. When were you told by Lieutenant how do you say his name?
Cromines.
Cromines to not prepare an incident report?
That was on the Wednesday.
So this.
I don't remember the date. We can calculate it up.
Okay. So March 4th was a Friday.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And had you prepared any draft incident reports?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So there's a draft incident report in the system.
No, sir. Not in y'all's. Not in Lake Jackson.
Okay.
It was done at my house.
Okay. So you had the ability to prepare a draft incident report at your house?
It's not on the letterheads of Lake Jackson. It's just basically a Word document that I typed up and I had it print out.
Okay. Is that something you normally did while at the City of Lake Jackson?
No, sir. Usually it was done at the city.
Okay. But why did you want to draft a Word document of your incident report?
Because I was told before I even left the hospital that I was suspended under internal affairs. And about 2 hours later, one of the officers came and picked me up, took me to the PD, and I was told not to speak to no one, grab my stuff, and go home.
Okay. And who told you that?
I can't, it was either Corporal Ryan or Sergeant Necestra. I can't remember which one. They were both there in the office when I grabbed my things.
Okay. And so when you got home, is that when you drafted or started drafting?
No, sir. It was Monday afternoon, I believe.
Okay.
It was either Monday or Tuesday afternoon.
Okay, so Monday or Tuesday afternoon, you decide that you wanted to draft or put in writing your version of events of what occurred.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And do you still have a copy of that draft?
Unfortunately, sir, it's been 9 months. I doubt it. I'm sure, I never saved it on the computer, never saved it on a jump drive, so I'm sure it's already been shredded.
Okay. Did you ever provide a copy of that to your attorney?
No, sir.
Have you had a chance to review the incident reports that were prepared in this incident?
I have not read every single one of them. I don't know who's written an incident report or who hasn't.
Okay. How often, well, how quickly after an incident are you required normally or expected to prepare an incident report?
Usually we do the incident report right then and there.
Okay, so you knew when you were told at the hospital that you were suspended that you were not going to be able to prepare a report right away?
Oh, I thought I was going to be able to go to the PD and still type one.
Okay. And then when did you find out that you were not going to be able to do that?
As soon as I walked in the PD.
And that was on March 4th?
That's on March 4th.
Okay. And you were told to leave?
Yes, sir. I was told to gather my belongings that were there on the floor in the sergeant's office and to leave. Do not speak to anybody with the city of Lake Jackson.
Okay. Prior to this incident, were you expected to work that Saturday or Sunday?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Which day?
Both days.
Okay. But then as a result of this, you didn't go into work?
No, sir. I was suspended.
Okay. And then how did you end up speaking with Lieutenant Cronies on that Wednesday?
Actually, I spoke with Lieutenant Cromings on a Monday and Tuesday, and then I showed up on Wednesday and spoke with him in person.
Okay, so you spoke to Lieutenant Cronies on Monday and Tuesday via phone?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what were those conversations about?
Lieutenant Cromings called me Monday and asked me if I was going to resign. I told him I had no intentions of resigning. I like the camaraderie. I like the guys that I work with. He said, okay. That was it. And then Tuesday, he ended up calling me again. I know I was going to lunch with a friend of mine, and that's when the second call came in. And he's the one that told me that it does not look good for me. I need to resign. I explained to him that I did not want to resign, that I wanted a meeting with the chief. And he said, come in tomorrow morning. So that's when I came in Wednesday morning.
Okay. And then, so you went in Wednesday morning. Who did you speak with?
I immediately went to Lieutenant Cromings.
Okay. And the discussion about preparing an incident report came up?
No, sir. It was the about the resigning.
Okay. Because I'm trying to understand when exactly you were told not to prepare an incident report.
Whenever I resigned, I went in and talked to the chief, and he told me that it doesn't matter the outcome, I'm still going to be terminated. So if I don't resign right now, I will be fired.
And so,
Good responsiveness. I'm not sure he answered your question.
so you met with the chief on that Wednesday. Was Lieutenant Cronies in the room?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And who else was in the room?
Assistant Chief Anderson was.
Okay. So you had Henderson, Cronies, and the chief.
Anderson.
Anderson.
Yes, sir.
Got it. Not Henderson.
No, sir.
Okay. And did Anderson or Cronies say anything in that meeting?
No, sir. It was just, well, Assistant Chief Anderson did, but it was already after I spoke with the Chief Kibido. So, and it was basically, there's nothing we can do, is all he would state.
Okay, and so do you feel like then that you resigned?
Yes, sir. I was forced to resign.
Okay, because if you didn't resign, you were under the impression you were going to get fired.
Yes, sir.
Okay, if you did get fired, would that have impacted your peace officer license?
Yes, sir.
Okay, how so?
It would have given me a dishonorable
Dishonorable, what?
F5.
Okay, and that's when you say F5, that's the form pertaining to your peace officer certification.
That's the form when you leave a department. There's 3 criteria. There's honorable, general, or dishonorable.
Okay, and so the dishonorable would have been the worst one.
Yes, sir.
Okay. If you received that dishonorable marking on your F5, what would have happened to your peace officer certification?
I don't know.
Okay. Would it have impacted your ability to get employment as a peace officer in the state of Texas?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But if you, by resigning, is there any kind of, how is your termination described at that point?
It's a general.
Okay, and a general is not a dishonorable.
No, sir.
And actually, sitting here today, you still have your peace officer certification.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And is it your understanding that you can still be employed as a peace officer with the general marking on your F5?
It's just as hard as it is being dishonorable.
Okay. But it's not. Have you tried to apply to other peace?
Yes, sir.
What other police departments have you applied to?
Fort Bend and Stafford.
Okay. And was it because of your F5 that were you told because of your general marking?
No, sir.
Okay. What did they tell you?
They basically stated that due to this incident, they're not going to get involved.
Okay. So do you think if this incident, do you mean the incident on March 4th, 2022? Or
Yes, sir.
Okay. Have you talked to any of those police departments about the litigation?
What do you mean? As in the civil litigation?
Yes.
Yes, sir. They know.
Okay. And so do you think that it had that also played a part?
I don't know.
Okay. But they did receive a copy of your F5, these other departments?
That I don't know either.
Okay. So how would they know that you received a general?
I was upfront and honest with them.
Okay. Because I assume they asked you then?
I told them.
All right. We've been going for about an hour. Let's take it's 11:11. Let's take a brief 5-minute break.
Okay.
Does it look okay?
I can still see everything but the top of my head.
Time is 11:20 p.m. Is everyone ready?
Yep.
All right, Mr. Cagle. I just want to clarify. I want to clarify. Were you explicitly told by anyone at the City of Lake Jackson Police Department to not prepare an incident report?
No, they did not tell me not to.
Okay. I just want to clarify, but it sounds like you, in your discussion with the chief, said that you had not yet done an incident report.
It was never brought up. It was only about me resigning or being terminated.
Okay. You made a statement earlier, prior to the break, that you were told that it would not matter, it would not change the outcome.
After I turned my resignation letter over to Lieutenant Colonel Means, I asked him if he needed my statement. And at that time he said he does not need it, I've resigned.
Okay. So you actually submitted a written resignation letter?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you provide a copy of that to your attorney?
No, sir.
Okay. Were you ever asked to make a written statement by anybody at the City of Lake Jackson as a result of the March 4th, 2022 incident?
No, sir.
Okay. Were you ever interviewed by any City of Lake Jackson employee as a result of the March 4th, 2022 incident?
No, sir.
Okay. So your understanding was that, were you aware that there was an investigation in the March 4th, 2022 incident?
Well, like I said earlier, when the assistant chief said I was suspended under internal affairs, then I knew that investigation. Internal affairs is going to be an investigation.
Okay. But no one from internal affairs reached out to you for
No,
your.
sir.
Okay. So, were you given the opportunity to give your side of the story of what occurred on March 4th, 2022?
Besides what happened at that incident, no.
Okay. Do you agree with the City of Lake Jackson's determination in this case about? Let me back up. Did you see the? Have you seen the press release from the City of Lake Jackson on this matter?
I was told from a friend about it, but I never looked at it myself.
Okay. So are you aware that the City of Lake Jackson determined that you used unreasonable force?
I was never told that, no.
Okay. Were you aware that the City of Lake Jackson thought that you had a erroneous application or understanding of the law?
No, sir.
Okay. If the chief did not threaten termination, would you have resigned?
No, sir.
You were at the hospital. You also went to the hospital because of a finger injury.
Yes, sir.
Okay, what? Explain to me this injury.
Whenever I was reaching down under Mr. Reyes' upper body to grab his arm to pull it back, somehow my fingers, these two, got completely pulled backwards. They said they were hyperextended.
And when you say these two, what two fingers on what hand?
It's my right hand, little finger, and ring finger.
Okay. And were you evaluated by a medical professional?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What was the diagnosis?
He said that they were hyperextended, that I needed to follow up with the, I don't know what he called it, but like a specialist or something.
Okay. Did you ever follow up with anybody about your finger?
No, sir.
Okay. Was there any bleeding?
I had cuts on my head and I had cuts on my hand, but I don't know where it came from.
Okay. Would you consider the injury to your finger as severe?
I mean, to me, it's severe. It hurt, but I mean, it's not like life-threatening. No.
Okay. And you actually were transported to the hospital by EMS, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And at this time, you also understood that Mr. Reyes was bleeding from his head?
I knew that he had blood on his head. I believe it was the back of his head.
Okay. Do you know how that injury occurred?
No, sir, I don't.
Are you also aware that Mr. Reyes was complaining of not being able to breathe?
He made that statement whenever I was finally putting the handcuffs on him.
Okay, is that because you were sitting on him?
I was not sitting on his upper part. I was sitting on his buttocks towards the lower, maybe the middle to the lower of his legs.
Okay. But you understood that did it appear he was laying on a raised curb?
From his waist up, he was laying on the flat grass. It was somewhere around his mid thighs, maybe middle thighs, that were on that curb.
Okay. So, but were you aware that there was not an EMS available for Mr. Reyes?
I have no idea, actually.
Okay. So, do you know who made the decision to give the EMS to you for your finger injuries as opposed to Mr. Reyes?
No, sir, I don't.
During March 2022, were you part of a motorcycle club affiliated with law enforcement?
Yes, sir.
And what is that motorcycle club called?
Los Canales.
How do you spell that?
It's Los is LOS space CORNALES.
Are you still part of that club?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Have you had any discussions with any of the club members about this incident?
There's only one that I've spoken to,
Who
and
is that?
that's Mario
Mario who?
Escamilla.
How do you spell that?
Well, I don't know.
Okay. What did you say to Mario?
I just advised him that this incident occurred, that it's going to an internal affairs. At that point in time, I didn't know of the civil. After went through the Rangers and the grand jury, I advised him that that part was done, but I think there's a civil, but we never got into conversations of what happened, how it happened, or nothing like that.
Okay. So did you have to talk to Mario about that because the outcome, for example, if there were any criminal charges, would that have impacted your ability to be part of the club?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Prior, okay. Now, you said when you were asked to give a statement or talk about what occurred, the only time you were given that opportunity was actually out at the scene on March 4th, 2022?
It was the scene, and whenever the lieutenant showed up at the hospital, and then after that he asked me what had occurred, I explained to him, and then the assistant chief came in probably 30, 45 minutes later, and he asked how my hand was. I said, we're still waiting on x-rays, we don't know. And that's when he said, all right, well, you're suspended under internal affairs. So, somebody will come back and pick you up later.
Okay.
That was it.
Did you, were you asked why you took Mr. Reyes to the ground?
I think Lieutenant Cromings asked me, but I don't remember the full extent of the conversation.
Okay.
I mean, it was whenever everything was still going on.
Did you tell any of your supervisors that you took Mr. Reyes to the ground because he initiated contact with you?
I don't remember exactly how I put it. I know I spoke with Sergeant Esestra and, of course, Corporal Ryan, because he was there. I do know that I told him that he made a movement towards me, and I don't remember exactly how I said it, but that was the reason I took him down.
Okay. So did you do you know if you would have told any of the corporals or sergeants or lieutenants that Mr. Reyes initiated contact with you?
I don't remember exactly how the conversation went. It was a quick talking with them, and that's when next thing I know, they refused to let me go to the hospital into one of the units. They said get in the ambulance, and then they took me to the hospital. And I know that I told him he was pointing a lot, and he was, it felt like he was reaching, and that was the reason I took him down. But I don't remember if I said he touched me or not, no.
Okay. But sitting here today, is it your understanding that Mr. Reyes touched you first?
No, sir. I touched him on his left side first.
Okay. Do you know what injuries Mr. Reyes sustained as a result of this incident?
No, sir. I have no idea.
Do you feel bad for what you did to Miss Reyes?
I feel bad for the whole situation.
If you were aware that Mr. Reyes had a right to photograph and film the accident scene from where he was standing, would that have changed how you handled the situation?
Sir, I can't speculate on that. I can't answer that. I don't honestly know. I haven't had the training on that, so I don't know how I would have talked to him. I still would have gone up to him. I still would have asked him if I could help him with something, because he's still on that accident scene.
Okay, so I guess I want to clarify that as well. I asked you earlier if when you first approached Mr. Reyes whether you suspected him of committing any crime, and you said no, but then later you said he was interfering with the accident scene. So at what point did you think that Mr. Reyes started committing a crime?
When he was asked to leave and he refused to leave, that's when the interfering started beginning. And that's when the interfering happened.
Okay. And is that irrespective of whether the accident investigation was complete or not?
So the whole time the accident wasn't complete. The accident scene was not completed.
Okay. And that was, I recall, I guess another thing you mentioned out on the scene was you called Officer Mendoza over because you said it was his scene, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so was Officer Mendoza the, I guess, officer in charge?
He was the primary officer.
Okay. And so does he make a decision on who's in charge of the accident investigation?
Officer Mendoza is in charge of writing the accident report, yes. Both officers are still there for the safety of that scene until all vehicles have left, wreckers have left, and law enforcement has left. That's when the scene is complete.
Okay, so there's not a designated officer that dictates when the investigation is completed?
That, like I just said, it's whenever everybody leaves the scene is when it's completed.
Okay, so there's no act or declaration that says this is now complete?
No, sir, because if Officer Mendoza decided to leave during the middle of the accident and that wreckers and the cars are still on the roadway, it's still an accident scene. We still have to protect it.
You called before the physical interaction with Mr. Reyes, when you were still speaking with him, you radioed for a supervisor.
Yes, sir.
Do you know how long it took a supervisor to get to the scene?
No, sir, I don't.
Okay. If you knew a supervisor was on the way, why did you physically attempt to remove Mr. Reyes?
I didn't know if a supervisor was on the way or not. Just because I called it out over the radio doesn't mean that they either heard me or that they're responding. I don't know if they're on another call.
So, for clarification, at any point on March 4th, 2022, did you intend to arrest Mr. Reyes?
At the time of the incident, no.
Okay.
I was only detaining him.
Okay. At any point, did you make a decision or intend to arrest Mr. Reyes?
Like I advised, when I detained him, that's as far as I went, because then I was pulled away from him from that point.
Okay.
So when he was on the ground, I detained him. I was talking to Corporal Ryan. That's when I got up and I walked off because Corporal Ryan took over the scene. From that point, I don't know what happened with Mr. Reyes.
Did you did you make any recommendations to anybody about arresting Mr. Reyes?
I advised Corporal Ryan and I think also Sergeant Sestra of the incident of what the charges possibly could be, but at no time did anybody ever say they're going to arrest Mr. Reyes.
Okay.
Oh, can I?
Yep, go ahead.
In front of me, no one ever made that they were going to arrest Mr. Reyes.
Okay. Did you recall when you were speaking to supervisors on the scene on March 4, 2022, what were you telling them that Mr. Reyes was doing?
I said that he interfered in the investigation. He also refused to ID. And then I don't remember whether I explained to him that he was reaching for something or that's whenever he touched or somehow.
Did you ever tell them that he was filming or photographing license plates?
I did say that.
Okay. Did anybody question you or inform you that that was not against the law?
No, sir.
Okay. Did anybody out on the scene, any law enforcement officer, question your decision to take Mr. Reyes down to the ground?
No, sir.
Does the city of Lake Jackson, at least in March 2022, was there a use of force report or form for use of force incidents?
There is a use of force continuum that all departments have.
You're right, there's a continuum, but is there a form that you would have to fill out for each use of force incident?
I know we do the incident reports, and that's the incident that would be going to the report. I can't recall any, like a specific piece of paper for use of force.
Okay. Do you understand the different types of resistance? Do you know what active resistance versus passive resistance is?
Is that a legal question?
It's a use of force question.
If it's a use of force question, it's never in anything I've ever seen.
Okay. And so when you talked about the continuum, there's a lower end, right?
There's the presence.
The presence.
Correct.
And then it escalates all the way up.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So when you say presence, you mean officer presence?
Officer presence.
Okay. And then at some point, there's open hand techniques.
That's the third step.
Okay, what's the second?
Verbal.
Verbal. And when can you transition from the verbal use of force to the open hand techniques use of force?
Whenever the safety is concerning at that point. If the person is not listening to the verbal commands, that's when you use the open hand technique, and that's where I was at.
Okay, so the suspect's level of resistance matters, right?
Oh, yes, sir.
Okay, and are you aware if the City of Lake Jackson use of force policy describes the difference between active and passive resistance?
I don't know.
Okay. And are you also aware that interference, well, let me back up. Did you, now you talked about interfering with the crime scene, or the accident scene, right?
Yes, sir.
Is that different from interfering with the public duties?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So did you think that Mr. Reyes was interfering with public duties?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are you aware of whether or not that Mr. Reyes was permitted to interfere, or that's not a crime to interfere with public duties if it's by verbal alone?
No, sir.
Okay. Did you think that Mr. Reyes was doing more than just verbal resistance?
Yes, sir.
How so?
When he was on the scene and refused to leave, that's whenever he starts to interfere. It's still a crime scene.
Okay. Did you ever tell Mr. Reyes where exactly he could go?
We were pointing him over towards my unit.
Okay. You were pointing him towards your unit?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you specifically tell him your unit?
No, sir.
Okay. So you were just generally pointing to where your vehicle was?
We told him to go over there.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh, no worries. Okay, but and you also asked Mr. Reyes to leave.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you ever tell him where he could be without having to leave?
No, sir.
Okay. 1 second. I have no further questions today. I pass.
Yes, sir. I do. I do. Exhibit 1 on this will be his personnel status report, and Exhibit 2 will be the civilian interaction training program. You want to mark these first? Before or after, doesn't matter. Correct, which ones are going to be. The civilian interaction is number 2. Officer Cagle, my name is Joseph Calgary. I represent the city of Lake Jackson in this particular matter. I have handed you 2 documents. One, it's got an Exhibit 1 on it. It's your Texas Commission on Law Enforcement Personnel Status Report. You see that, sir?
Yes, sir.
And what I've done is put a post-it on the page I want you to get to. And I have used a pencil to make a check by a course that's got 30418 by it. You see that, sir?
Yes, sir. Last page.
Which page is your posted?
Page 6.
It's the very last
right-hand
page.
corner.
Thank you.
And that 30418 is the civilian interaction training course that was done on January 6th, 2022. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, sir.
Do you recall attending that course at some OSS Academy?
That was online.
An online course?
Yes, sir.
So what you do is you sit down and you have a computer screen and you look at it, right,
Yes, sir.
And if you go to the posted on Exhibit 2, it'll be page 10. 3.3 visual or audio recording of traffic stops. You see that, sir?
Yes, sir.
And I'll just go through in the second paragraph where it starts in Texas, comma. You see that, sir?
Yes, sir.
In Texas, comma, citizens have the right to make video or audio recordings of almost any transaction to which they are an active participant or witness. This includes interactions with law enforcement, comma, such as traffic stops, period. Witnesses may legally record video of peace officers as they interact with the public in much the same way that officers record the same transactions, period. Citizens may not, comma, however, comma, do so in a manner that physically impedes an officer's or other public servant's ability to perform his or her duties, period. For example, comma, They cannot physically place themselves between an officer and someone the officer is attempting to search or arrest, period. It is reasonable for officers to ask them to stand a safe distance from the officer or others, or to remove them from an active crime scene in order to protect the integrity of the crime scene, period. I read all that correctly, sir?
Yes.
All right, now, this online course that you took, was that directed by the city of Lake Jackson for you to take that course?
No, sir.
That's something you did voluntarily?
Yes, sir.
And when you sat, and you'd already started the city of Lake Jackson?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, when you are acquiring, I think you said you left Brazoria County to come to a smaller agency to increase your law enforcement knowledge baseline.
Yes, sir, my career.
All right. So, you're doing things to enhance your career.
Yes, sir.
And in enhancing your career, acquiring this type of information about civilian interaction training
Yes, sir.
is an enhancement, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, you were asked a question. If you were aware that Reyes was entitled to video, would that have somehow changed your interaction with him? Remember that question, sir?
Yes, sir.
Now, obviously, when you took that online course, did you pay attention?
Yes, sir.
Did you take any notes when you were taking that course, sir?
No, sir.
Do you recall when they talked about the right in Texas for people to videotape?
Yes, sir.
And since you knew that he had a right to videotape, was him having his cell phone out in any way, shape, or form the reason you acted towards him the way you did?
No, sir.
As I understand your testimony, the reason you acted with Mr. Reyes the way you did was because of his location vis-a-vis potential traffic coming off of 288/332 that might create a hazard to him if somebody hits. I think you said there was a fire department truck that was parked.
Yes, sir.
They hit that, there's a chain of events, and he ends up getting caught up in the wash. Fair
Yes, sir.
statement?
Yes, sir.
And so your concerns were safety,
Yes, sir.
not whether or not videotaping was allowed, right?
That's correct.
Because you knew based on that online course that videotaping in Texas was allowed by citizens, right?
Yes, sir.
And that was information you had while you were employed by the city of Lake Jackson, true?
Yes, sir.
I mean, you didn't need the city of Lake, for example, when you got to the city of Lake Jackson, you had a peace officer's license issued by the state of Texas, true?
Yes, sir.
And you brought that knowledge base with you to the city of Lake Jackson, true?
Yes, sir.
You merely wanted to increase your knowledge base once you got here.
Can I explain on that?
Certainly, sir.
I came over here more for the mental health. That's where my expertise was. I came to Lake Jackson to get back into policing. That's the reason I came here.
Okay. Well, since you want to get back into policing, you understood that in getting back into policing from the mental health arena, you might need to get some other information about new trends, such as videotaping, right?
Yes, sir.
Did you know when you were with Brazoria County that the public was entitled to videotape police activities?
No, sir.
So, you got that information on or about January 6th, 2022, right, sir?
Yes, sir.
When you took that online course.
Yes, sir.
That's the first time you, as best you recall, had some information about videotaping in the state of Texas and that being allowed, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, now, so we take away, you're not saying that you did not have information about the ability of a citizen in the state of Texas to video police activities, right?
Sir?
Okay. You are not saying that you did not have knowledge that in the state of Texas, citizens can videotape police activities.
Yes, sir.
You knew that, true?
Yes, sir.
You knew that after you completed that online course, right, sir?
Yes, sir.
You knew that if this event happened on or about March 4th, 2022, then as of January 6th, 2022, you knew that in the state of Texas, videotaping was allowed of police activities, right, sir?
Yes, sir.
No one had to train you about that because you had that knowledge, true?
Yes, sir.
I mean, for example, did you know how to use a firearm when you came to the city of Lake Jackson?
Yes, sir.
Did you need to be trained about how to use a firearm?
No, sir.
Did you know how to drive a patrol car when you got to the city of Lake Jackson?
Yes, sir.
Did you need to be trained about how to drive a patrol car?
No, sir.
Okay, now, did you know how to put handcuffs on somebody when you got to the city of Lake Jackson?
Yes, sir.
Did you need any training on that?
No,
On
sir.
how to put handcuffs on?
No, sir.
Okay. When did you first get training on how to put handcuffs on?
In the academy.
All right. So at the Houston Community College.
Yes, sir.
And you've been doing that for, I guess, since you got in law enforcement.
Oh, yes, sir.
Okay. Now, if you go back to that exhibit number 1, sir, on the first page, they've got kind of a service history on you, right, sir?
Yes, sir.
And it starts when you were the reserve officer at the Brookside Village Police Department from January 10th of 2000 to May 16th of 2000, right, sir?
Yes, sir.
And then the next, you were Brookside Village Police Department as a peace officer, right?
I was still reserved. That's a clarificational error on Brookside.
I guess I'm just reading what's on
Yes,
your
sir. Yes,
officer.
sir. I've tried to get it fixed because it's different on time served.
So what it should say is you were a reserve officer.
Yes, sir.
Did you have a peace officer license?
Yes, sir.
Now, even though you are, quote, a reserve peace officer, do you have all the same powers that the state of Texas gives to licensed peace officers?
Yes, sir, because reserve is a licensed peace officer.
Meaning you can arrest people that you see violating penal code provisions.
Yes, sir.
If they're violating transportation code provisions, speeding, running through stop signs, you can stop them and issue traffic tickets.
Yes, sir.
Because you are a licensed peace officer.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now, so that does your tenure with Brookside end in March 10th of 2005?
Yes, sir.
So you're there there appear to be 2 times. Were you in the construction business between May of 2000 to November 26th of 2004 or so?
Yes, sir.
And so that little gap there is when you were in the construction business.
That's when I went into it, was in 2000.
I'm just going to write construction on my copy of this. And so you get back into it in November of 2004.
Yes, sir.
And you stay with these folks for 3 months until March 10th of 2005.
Yes, sir.
Then you go to Missouri County as November of 2012, right, sir?
Yes, sir, November 15th.
And you are, well, actually, tell me how this works. You start November of 2012. I see in here that you were a jailer license in April of 2013 to September of 2013. How was that working, sir? Did they hire you in November 2012 and then ship you to the jail?
Yes, sir. In November of 2012, I went in, and that's when I had to do some courses through them, ride with different officers. Whenever everything got set up and done, there was no openings in patrol. So that's when they put me in the jail. The reason that the jailer's there is because when you go in the jail, you have to have what's called a jailer's license through TCOL. They give you a temporary jailer's license for 1 year. After that 1 year, you have to go through jail school or you lose a license. So whenever I left in, what was it? September 23rd of 2013 is when I went to full-time patrol.
So, and that reflects that. It shows you were 6 months in the Brazos, Missouri County I guess, jail with
Yes,
that
sir.
temporary jail license. And then the rest of your time after that would be on patrol, and that ended August 13th of 2021, right, sir?
I wasn't in patrol the whole time. No,
I
sir.
said-
That's
I'm
yes,
sorry.
sir.
I'm just talking about your tenure with the department. Let
Yes,
me
sir.
be clear, because you were with mental health, you said roughly 6 years.
Yes, sir.
You were in patrol 2 years.
Yes, sir. About 2-3 years.
I think that's what the evidence is. But the next entry is you at Lake Jackson in August of 2021, right, sir?
Yes, sir.
And then you go, and so you're there, you go through the field training operation with a field training officer for X number of time, right, sir, with Lake
Yes, sir.
Jackson?
Yes, sir.
And at some point in time, you get let go and you are there 2-man patrols or 1-man
Just
patrol?
1-man patrol.
Okay. You're now 1-man patrol, January of 2022, you take the online course, right?
Yes, sir.
About civilian interaction.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now, am I correct then when you tell me that it's online, again, going back to this page with the little posted on it?
Yes, sir. Oop, wrong one.
If I see OSS Academy, that's all online?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, were all these online courses things that you did voluntarily, or did somebody from the city of Lake Jackson suggest you take it?
At that time, that's when the city of Lake Jackson actually got a contract with OSS Academy to where it was free for certain courses for the officers. So instead of paying out of pocket, it was, I don't know exactly, and I don't remember how they clarified it, but it was where we can go in, we can take the training that we needed, or that we wanted, basically.
When were you informed that the city of Lake Jackson had an agreement with the OSS Academy such that its police officers could go online to get training?
This only goes back to January 14th. Oh, sorry. December 26th.
Yes, sir, I did not print it all, but here's what I'm gonna do.
Because anytime after I was hired with the city of Lake Jackson, when I started on the OSS Academy,
Yes, sir.
that's when they had already started the program. I don't know if it was October, November, or December.
Okay. And what I'm doing now is accessing your records. I just didn't print everything out. Now, on page 7, what I'm looking at, sir, shows there is a 9/23/2021 OSS Academy course called 87th Session State and Federal Law Update.
That I paid for.
That you paid for.
Yes, sir.
And the next OSS I see is 11/27/2021 OSS Field Sobriety Testing.
That was already when Lake Jackson started, because I remember taking that course. Because I can't remember if I took the SFSTs before or after that course.
Well, let me tell you what your record shows. There's an F period, S period, F period, S period, T period practitioner course on November 18th of 2021 at the Freeport Police Department.
Yes, sir.
So that's the chronology that I'm looking at here.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so are you telling me that by November 27th, 2021, at that point in time, you knew that the city of Lake Jackson had an agreement with the OSS Academy for its officers to go and receive online training at no cost to the officer
On certain courses, yes, sir.
on certain courses?
Yes, sir.
And apparently the civilian interaction training was one of those certain courses.
Yes, sir.
And so you went and you took that course about civilian interaction, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now, you're probably a little too young to remember who Paul Harvey was.
I have no idea.
I know you don't. He used to have a radio show in which he would, your lawyer's smiling because he's old like me, in which he would say something, he'd get part of a story, and you would think one thing, and he would say, and now for the rest of the story, and it would be a totally different item. And that's why I say that. So you've gotten, quote, the rest of the story from me about what I didn't print out, which is on your record.
Yes, sir.
Sir. And the important thing to me is that you knew that the city of Lake Jackson, in order to enhance their officers' basic knowledge, what I call baseline, as an officer, they had a contract with OSS Academy where its officers could take courses like you did on civilian interaction training, right?
Objection, Phil.
Can you answer the question?
Yes, sir.
All right, and you took that course.
Yes, sir.
All right, now, let me ask you this, sir. You were asked a question about a news release and the content of the news release by the city of Lake Jackson after this event. Remember that question, sir?
Yes, sir.
Now, I wrote down that a part of the question dealt with some unreasonable use of force. Was that part of the question? Do you remember?
I don't remember, sir.
Okay, here's what I'm going to do. This particular news release, sir, it says it's got a March, it says for immediate release, March 9th, 2022 at 3 p.m. And it says March 4th, 2022 incident, internal affairs findings. Now, you never read this news release, true?
No, sir. I had to get off of all social media.
I understand. Well, here's what it says. The Lake Jackson Police Department and City of Lake Jackson would like to express our gratitude for the patience afforded to us by the citizens of Lake Jackson while we thoroughly investigated an unfortunate incident regarding the actions of two of our officers on March 4th, 2022. Their actions were based on an erroneous understanding of law, period, which resulted in an arrest of a citizen who was legally videotaping a nearby traffic accident, period. Police department supervision quickly discovered the error, released the citizen, and initiated our internal affairs process, period. At this time, the internal affairs investigation is complete, and we have taken appropriate action given the circumstances of the incident, period. As of this morning, before conclusion of the investigation, we accepted the resignation of Officer Johnny Cable from his position with the Lake Jackson Police Department, period. Officer Mendoza, who was also a subject of the investigation, will receive a period of unpaid leave and is required to participate in remedial training in the areas of law of concern in this incident, period. We're also in consultation with the District Attorney's Office for confirmation of whether the actions of the officers rise to the level of criminal responsibility, period. We work hard every day to earn and keep the trust of the people we serve here in Lake Jackson. And as we move forward as a community, the Lake Jackson Police Department recommits itself to the tenets of delivering professional and courteous service, preserving the peace, and enforcing the law and Constitution to make a safe environment for all citizens, period. That's the news release, sir.
Joe, before you ask any questions, can you tell me what's the base number on that document, just so that we have that in the record?
I need to get to that part of it. I didn't. So I'm getting something different over here. I will try to find that.
I'm not questioning that you read it correctly. I just want to make sure we have a record reference for it.
I get it.
Since it's not in the record.
I will try to get that right before we conclude. Because I've been getting questions. I'll do it for you. That way, I'll get that reference. Okay, now let me ask you this, sir. Did you have some contact with the district attorney's officer?
No, not until after the Texas Rangers contacted me.
Okay, then that indicates to me you did have some contact with the district attorney's officer, right?
Through the Texas Rangers, okay.
Okay. I don't know. I'm just asking.
Yes, sir.
Because what it says here, we are also in consultation with the district attorney's office for confirmation on whether the action of the officers rise to the level of criminal responsibility, period. Has anybody told you that your conduct rose to the level of criminal responsibility?
I'm not sure what you're asking. I know during the interview with the Rangers, they advised me of possible charges, but when I went through the grand jury, it was no build.
Bottom line is, when I ask about the level of criminal responsibility, in my mind, what I'm asking you is, did anybody charge you criminally?
No, sir.
Okay. It was investigated and taken to citizens here in Brazoria County that comprise a grand jury, and they concluded that there was not enough evidence from their perspective to initiate what they would call a true bill and get you charged with anything.
Yes, sir.
Now, there was a question that was posed to you, and it was if you were aware that plaintiff was entitled, I said Reyes, I put plaintiff, that Reyes was entitled to video, would that have changed your interaction with her? I think your response was, I cannot speculate, but I had no training on the videotape. Did I get that answer right, sir?
Yes, sir.
That's why I wanted you to look at that OSS matter. Do you see now that you did receive some training on videotaping?
Yes, sir.
Did you ever, now here's what happens with people. They forget things. And part of what I try to do, I use little examples in communicating, okay? Do you remember when the United States Senate was investigating baseball players for steroid use?
I don't know when it was. I remember hearing something about it, but I couldn't tell you anything about it.
You just know it happened?
Yes, sir.
Okay, one of the people that was questioned by the Senate was Roger Clemens. You know who that is, right?
Yes, sir.
In one of the responses to a question where Roger Clemens kind of changed information, Roger said, I misremembered. I love that phrase, I misremembered. My question to you now is, did you misremember that you received this training when you responded to the question that you didn't get any training on video?
I forgot it that I even had that training.
I understand. But you did, true?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, you indicated that until the scene is cleared, that both officers are in charge to ensure safety, right?
Yes, sir.
And I think you told us that you were sent to the scene originally to help Officer Mendoza with essentially traffic control type issues.
Yes, sir.
And you indicated that you moved your vehicle from one spot to another spot to try to control traffic.
Yes, sir.
I think on the exit from the mall to 332.
Yes, sir.
And you indicated there was at least one time where a motorist who was concerned about, I guess, Ms. Vaughn, who apparently was a sister of her, almost made contact with another vehicle at the scene. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, sir.
Is that the sort of thing that was your concern about safety with respect to where Mr. Reyes was located doing whatever he was doing at the scene?
Yes, sir.
Now, did you ever hear Officer Mendoza ask Mr. Reyes to move near your unit, which was close to the Starbucks, for his safety?
I don't remember if he said unit or not. I do know that Officer Mendoza did tell them to just move, go over there, but I don't remember the full extent of every single word.
Okay. So, but you do recall Officer Mendoza requesting Mr. Reyes to move to a location nearer to your unit.
Yes, sir.
You didn't use the words to him, safety. Don't know whether or not safety was uttered by Officer Mendoza to him to communicate, this is for your safety. Move from this location to another spot.
Yes, sir.
Now, when you were on Mr. Reyes's buttocks, were your knees on the ground, sir?
My knees were on the curb.
So your knees were on the curb.
Yes, sir.
So one knee, were both knees on the curb?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so your legs are straddling him while your knees are on the curb?
Yes, sir.
So I assume your body weight is being held up by your knees.
Yes, sir.
Now, when you were in the Houston Community College Police Academy, did they have a use of force training for you?
Yes, sir.
Those terms, active and passive resistance, were those things that you recall hearing when you were in that course?
No, sir, I don't recall.
When you got to Brazoria County, was active and passive resistance anything you heard about?
When I was on patrol, I don't remember any of that.
And the 7 months you were with the City Lake Jackson, never heard of active or passive resistance?
I can't remember that either, sir.
Now were there any when Mr. Reyes, it's your recollection, Mr. Reyes moved his right arm up, I think you said a couple of times, underneath your left arm when you were trying to guide him away from where that unsafe location from your perspective?
Yes, sir.
You touch him, and does he immediately knock your hand off or knock your arm off or whatsoever?
I can't speculate on the time. I don't know. It was a few seconds. I just don't know. I can't tell you 1 second. I can't tell you 15 seconds.
I understand. Well, some of us have looked at the video, so we know what at least our perspective of time on video. But is that when any, would you consider the use of his right arm against your left arm to be passive resistance or active resistance?
It'd be more active resistance.
Did he ever give you any advance warning that he was going to use his right arm to dislodge your hand from his body?
No, sir.
Once he did that, then was the decision made to take him to the ground?
Yes, sir.
While you were at the scene, were your motor vehicle accident, was that part of your official duties at the scene of this motor vehicle collision?
No, sir. Not the accident.
Well, traffic control.
Traffic control. I'm talking about the two vehicles that collided.
Yes, sir.
That was Officer Mendoza that was doing the report. I was there for the traffic, the safety of the people.
Correct. Your duties involve traffic control.
Oh, yes, sir.
and your traffic control duties and safety of the people, is it your position that Mr. Reyes, where he was located, was interfering with those duties?
Yes, sir.
Do you know whether or not there are any provisions of the penal code that deal with interference with public duties?
Yes, sir.
Do you know whether or not, as a peace officer, you are entitled to detain someone for violating a penal code provision dealing with interfering with public duties?
Yes, sir.
Now, do you know whether or not where Mr. Reyes was located, if his use of words to you and or Officer Mendoza was creating a potential disturbance?
Objection form.
To me, it was.
Was your traffic control activities an official proceeding, sir, from your perspective?
I'm sorry.
Official proceeding, meaning consistent with you being a police officer doing your traffic control duties at this scene, sir.
Yes, sir.
Do you know whether or not Mr. Reyes's conduct, the use of words, the verbal things, the potential disturbance would hinder your ability to do your traffic control duties at the scene, sir?
Yes, sir.
Objection form.
Do you know whether or not there are any penal code provisions dealing with hindering proceedings by disorderly conduct?
Yes, sir.
As a peace officer, you're entitled to arrest people for Class A misdemeanor, sir.
Yes, sir.
Since you're looking at something, witness needs to take a very short break.
We're off the record.
Go to the men's room.
It's 12:20 p.m. I need.
What I'm doing is gonna email you that news release and put an exhibit 3 on that one,
Yes, sir.
okay?
Brandon at
It's gonna be Brandon. That happens to, yeah, I hope, it should populate, so I'm.
Yeah, it should.
So Brandon,
Yeah, you could just send it to.
no. Brandon at G2 Law.
Yep. G2. That's it.
Everybody's gonna get this at the same time.
Just for recording purposes, I started back at 12:27 p.m.
Cagle, that concludes my question. We'll go back to record. What we've done is we've attached as exhibit number 3 the news release that I read to you, sir.
Yes, sir.
And that's been sent to the court reporter and to the respective counsel. With that, sir, that concludes my question at the present time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Officer Cagle, we need to talk about Exhibit 2 real quick, if you could take a look at that. I just want to clarify some things here. This document states Civil Interaction Training Program. It has the course number. Do you see anything in this 11-page document indicating that it's from the OSS Academy?
No, sir, I haven't read the whole thing. So
Okay.
I don't.
When you take courses from the OSS Academy, it's online, right?
Yes, sir.
And it's generally videos?
Sometimes videos, sometimes just literature.
Okay, and it's also a slideshow?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and this specific course as well, it says it was 2 hours long, according to your TCOL records. Is it fair to say that if the training was provided by the OSS Academy, it would clearly state on Exhibit 2 that this was part of the OSS Academy?
I can't speculate on that. I don't know. I've never printed anything out like this online.
Okay, while you were talking about the OSS Academy course, I actually went on to purchase the course. I may have to try to see if I can save it or not, but and I may have to do it by at least a screenshot, and so I can. Actually, it was a video, I guess. No sound. Hold on. I can use that.
Well, we're not going to question him about things that have not been produced in litigation and that I'll have a chance to review.
Okay, got it,
Okay,
got it,
okay.
understood. So you testified earlier, and I just want to make sure that you said that you had received no training, but then the moment you were shown Exhibit 2, you said, oh yeah, I did get training. Which is it?
I don't remember that being in this training.
Okay.
That's been almost a year now.
Okay, but the incident at issue occurred March 2022, right?
Yes, sir.
And your TCOL records says you received Civilian Interaction Training Program, what month?
It says January.
January 2022.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so January, precisely to be exact, I guess it said January 6, 2022?
Yes, sir.
So that would have been within 90 days of the March 4, 2022 incident, right?
Yes, sir.
And so if you did in fact receive training on that, would you have remembered receiving that training within the 90-day period?
I can't, I don't know, because I mean, you can see I took so many courses since then.
But this, when it says Civilian Interaction Training Program, sitting here today, do you actually know what that training entailed?
At this point in time, no.
Okay, so even when you were shown Exhibit 2, you don't actually know if the contents in Exhibit 2 mirrored the training you received in January of 2022.
No, sir, I can't say.
Okay. Second thing I want to show you is, I'm going to share my screen here. It's what's Bates labeled as Reyes 1.
This is your document 1 and your document production?
Yes. Take a look at that. Oh. What did I just do? Weird split screen. Okay, do you see at the top of this document it says to Officer Cagle?
Yes, sir.
And it says from Paul, how do you say his last
Thibodeau.
name? Thibodeau?
Yes, sir.
That's spelled Kibodeaux. And his position, Chief of Police?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and the date on this is March 9, 2022.
Yes, sir.
Now, on the bottom of this document, you see where the chief signed it?
Yes, sir.
And it also says received by, and then there's a handwriting, resigned before termination.
Yes, sir.
Did you ever receive the letter from the chief of police that I'm showing you here at Reyes 1?
To my knowledge, no. This is what he read a minute ago, correct?
No, that's the, this is, he read a press release.
Okay.
And you're talking about Mr. Collier.
Internal affairs.
Let me know when you want me to scroll down.
You can scroll down a little bit. I never received this.
Okay, so you had a chance to read the letter at Reyes 1.
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Yes, sir. I just read it.
Okay, and this is the first time you've seen this letter?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
To my knowledge, it is.
Okay. And so when you met with the chief in March of 2022, where you were asked to resign, was this letter read to you?
No, sir.
Okay. And so were you ever informed, of this first sentence here where it says, I am sustaining the policy violation of unsatisfactory performance by a sworn officer?
No, sir.
Okay, and then it says here, while trying to address a concern from one of the persons involved in the traffic accident about someone recording, the citizen you approached was advised, and you took extreme action based on the erroneous belief that taking images of a license plate in public was against the law. You see that?
I see it.
And then the very next sentence says, the citizen, completely within the law and not suspect of any criminal activity, was not required to show identification. You see that?
I see it.
Is it your understanding that, in the reference of this letter mentions IA 2022-03-001? You see that?
Yes, sir.
So is it your understanding that this is a letter from an internal affairs investigation?
I have no idea.
Okay. But before the chief wrote this, that the citizen, completely within the law and not suspected of any criminal activity, is it your understanding that all of the body-worn camera would have been reviewed?
I don't. I would say it would.
Okay.
I mean, it's 5 days after.
Okay. And but this determination was made, would you agree, without talking to you about it?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
Is it your understanding that the chief reached this conclusion, that the citizen was completely within the law and not suspected of any criminal activity, without getting your side of the story?
I can't. I don't know how to. I can't answer that.
Well, you weren't interviewed by anyone
No.
from Internal Affairs.
No, I was never interviewed by Internal Affairs. None of the conversation was brought up about this.
Okay, and you were never asked to make any written statements,
No, sir.
and no one asked you for your version of the incident report.
No, sir.
And but it looks here that the chief of police for the city of Lake Jackson acknowledged that Mr. Reyes was completely within the law. Right?
That's what it says.
Okay. And then it says here, with your training and vast experience, these 2 points of the law should have been quite evident to you. So do you agree with the chief's representation that Mr. Reyes was completely within the law?
I can't. I don't know how to. I don't know.
Well, you were just testifying after the city's council asked you about disturbances and interference and all of these things. That's not in this letter, is it?
No, sir.
And then it says, too, the following point says, I must also sustain the policy violation of use of force under the portion of the policy which states, quote, not more force in any situation that is reasonably necessary under the circumstances, close quote. You see that?
I see it.
Following sentence, if effecting a lawful arrest, the use of force, the force used in the incident was only that necessary to overcome resistance, but in this case, the force used was unnecessary in that the arrest was unnecessary. You see that?
I see.
Okay. So do you agree with the chief's position here that the force used was unnecessary and that the arrest was unnecessary?
No, sir.
Okay, why don't you agree with
Because
that?
I didn't arrest him.
Okay. Were you ever afforded the opportunity to tell any City of Lake Jackson employee about whether or not you arrested Mr. Reyes?
No, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm gonna drop that.
Okay, so based at least on that letter from the chief of police, well, let me ask you this. Did you receive any correspondence or any communication, whether verbal or written, from anyone with the City of Lake Jackson to suggest that Mr. Reyes at any time was accused of any criminal conduct?
No, sir.
Thank you for your time. I pass.
Back to exhibits 1 and 2. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Exhibit 1 is the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement Personal Status Report, right, sir?
Yes, sir.
And it's pretty much, how would you characterize exhibit number 1, sir?
That's what I see on the computer.
So it's your history as a law enforcement,
For
as
me.
a T-code licensed peace officer, right?
Yes, sir.
And any courses that you took that were T-code certified and or met T-code requirements.
Yes, sir.
And the number that on the exhibit number 1 for that course that you took, that's a T-code number. Do you see that, sir?
Yes, sir.
Then when you look at that 30418 and you look at exhibit 2, Civilian Interaction Training Program, whose course is that?
It's technically T-Cole's course.
It's got that big little, I guess, mark on this. It's Texas Commission on Law Enforcement, right?
Yes, sir.
Got that same course number, right?
Yes, sir.
30418.
Yes, sir.
Has it been your experience as a peace officer that when you take a specific T-code course with a particular course number, that the content of the material is going to be the same?
Yes, sir.
So when we look at that 3.3 visual or audio recording part, if it's offered by the OSS Academy, consistent with the T-code provisions, then the content would be the same.
Yes, sir.
I'll reserve another question for time of trial. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Cagle, are you a T-code certified instructor?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and so you understand that you have a lot of flexibility in giving a T-code course?
We don't have flexibility in a T-Cole course.
Well, you're not given the material from T-code.
No.
You have to come up with the material yourself, right?
No, sir. The course is actually written by somebody and submitted to T-Cole for approval.
Okay, and so when we look at Exhibit 2, This is not, when you flip open to page 2, for example, it talks about abstract, right? The title.
Yes, sir.
And the very first sentence says, this guide is designed to assist the instructor in developing the appropriate lesson plan.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so Exhibit 2 itself is not actually a lesson plan.
No, sir.
Okay, and so, again, prior to today, you have not seen Exhibit 2.
I can't recall it.
Okay, and have you ever prepared any courses for the OSS Academy?
No, sir.
So, sitting here today, do you know if the OSS Academy prepared courses, any of their courses pursuant to the TCOL abstracts?
I can't. I don't know.
Okay, so all the questions you're getting about the OSS Academy and the quality of their courses, you're just speculating.
I mean, it's the course that we take. I mean, I can't say that OSS wrote it. I can't say Clausen Buck wrote it. I can't say you or I wrote it. I don't know.
Okay, just to be fair, on March 4th, 2022, prior to that point, did anyone from the city of Lake Jackson tell you whether or not an individual had a right to film police activity?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, and you told a number of officers on the scene about Reyes engaged in the activity of filming or photographing the scene.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and those officers you told included supervisors?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and it included other officers, right?
I remember Mendoza. I don't remember who all was there. There was other officers there.
Okay, but you told your version of events a couple of times?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and did any City of Lake Jackson police officer out on the scene ever question or tell you that what Mr. Reyes was doing was lawful?
No, sir.
Right, thank you. That's all I have.
Is interfering with a police officer's duties lawful?
No, sir.
Thank you, sir. No further question about reserve notice for time trial.
You're done.